Well, there were two fatal pedestrian crashes on back-to-back days this past summer.
According to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, both of the drivers in these crashes were undocumented immigrants. Yesterday in Augusta, lawmakers asked staff from the Secretary of State's office about the licensing process.
John Morin was a police officer for 25 years before becoming a state driver's license examiner for another 10 years. He says he left that job when he brought up concerns about interpreters cheating on driver's license testing.
I've seen some of them between 20 and close to 100 passes with 0 fails. It just can't happen. It's statistically impossible.
If I'm an examiner and I've got a non-citizen and an interpreter and they're talking about this test, I got no idea whether they're coaching them, filling in questions, telling them where to go.
My own personal proclivities are, my hackles are raised by what is beginning to sound like a presumption of malfeasance if you happen to speak another language. I'm wondering if you track pass rate data for any other category of applicants.
The Secretary of State's office says the interpreters are not licensed by this state, and while the state has some for applicants to use, people can also find and bring their own.
Now, both drivers in the Augusta fatal crashes we mentioned earlier were detained by ICE, according to the Department of Homeland Security.